Volrath the Shapestealer versus Azusa, Lost But Seeking, Yarok the Desecrated, and Shanna, Sissay's Legacy. Most likely a Celestia token build, I would have thought. Mostly worried about Yarok and Azusa at the table here, but that's not to say that Shanna should be underestimated. Actually not a superb hand, but we're going to keep it because I would hate to mulligan and not get into any lands. We can just slow roll our way up to a Chromatic Lantern, and hopefully our opponents don't go wild on us. Turn 1 Sol Ring from Yarok, and a turn 1 Mana Crypt from Azusa. Somehow, Azusa always manages to get ramp off on turn 1. So here comes Azusa, followed by a couple of land drops, I imagine. A Strip Mine and a Wasteland, excellent. So let's see how spiky Azusa is. May go for the Wasteland on one of our lands. A Sylvan Library, that's quite nice. Let's get a green source out with our Bloodstained Mire, and then we can hopefully go in for Sylvan Library next turn, assuming one of our lands doesn't get blown up. And it's only the first turn 2 of the game, but we've already seen 2 commanders. In comes Shanna. Our opponent only controls 1 creature, so that is just a 1/1 so far. But we still have to watch out for commander damage when Shanna's in play. A Farhaven Elf for Yarok will get them into another Sultai colour, I dare say. They can go for any basic with this, I think. Yes, a basic interplay tapped. Followed by the land drop for the turn, a Scryland in Temple of Malady. Couple more lands coming out for Azusa. They did get bolted by the Mana Crypt, and now they're down to 3 cards in hand. Let's see if they get their Eldrazi down this turn. Just going for a Genesis Wave, 4 into X. Probably just hitting lands here in an Azusa deck. Alright, actually not the worst Genesis Wave. They got 2 forests out of that. I don't know if the rest are revealed. Oh yeah, there we are. There's a Selvala Stampede, that's good to get rid of. And then Nissa's Pilgrimage, so just getting some basics there. Time for us to attempt to catch up. We'll go for the Sylvan Library. A little bit of a difference in power levels here, I think. Shows what a huge difference the fast mana makes. None of this would have been possible from either of our opponents without the fast mana. A Llanowar Elves will buff our opponent's commander, followed by a Voice of Resurgence, really good against control decks. Not too sure that there are many control decks at the table. Don't know about Yarok, but I know we are not. I took the counters out of the deck at the last second. Only just built this deck, so not really sure what I want to stick with. And yeah, correctly swinging in at Azusa. Highly doubt Azusa's going to block, although it probably wouldn't be the worst thing if they did, because they most likely don't have any lands in hand now. A Courser of Kruphix with nice promo art for our opponent. So it looks like they're aiming to make lands off the top. I think they already played this though, didn't they, for the turn? Maybe should have held off on that. There is a Solemn on top for Yarok. And then a Fierce Empath, not getting the double triggers yet, thanks to Yarok not being in play. I think I might have held off on that actually, unless they're going for an ETB creature now, which they most likely are. It's not an ETB creature, but it will trigger twice off of Yarok. Landfall does count towards Yarok's ability, so lots of 4/4 beasts are going to be running around if our opponent can make landfall, which should be easier with a Courser of Kruphix in play. And then swing it in for 1 at us. And what is that on top? That is Status and Statue. Azusa hit again by the Mana Crypt Lightning Bolt. And playing a Grasping Dunes. Should probably have that in this deck actually. It's only 1 tap and sack to put a minus counter on something. And then a Perilous Vault. Exile all non-land permanents for 5 tap and exile. And they can certainly afford that, so away goes our Sylvan Library. Yeah, this isn't going to be a fun one. And then going for Strip Mine onto blue, so it's obviously blue that they're worried about. Alright, well, feels bad to get our Sylvan Library exiled, but I think, yeah, what we can go for here is... What colours do we want? Do we want blue or green? We've got lots of green in the deck, so we're best going for Bayou. Yeah, we'll get down the Chromatic Lantern, and then we will Vampiric Tutor for the Rhystic Study, I think. In my experience, people don't tend to pay for Rhystic Study like I think they should. So we might get some card draw out of a study. Got a friend of the channel in Cranial Mage, and we played against them in 1 vs 1 quite a while ago, so the Shanna player is a friend of the channel. Yarok managing to get back into blue. Only 2 cards in Azusa's hand now at least. And then Wastelanding, one of our lands. Yeah, that doesn't feel too good. At least we've got Strip Mine and Wasteland off the field though. Then a Life from the Loam, oh good. It's going to be one of those games, going for Strip Mine and Wasteland locks. Most likely see Azusa hit play now. The Wasteland comes back into play, and now going after the Yarok player, trying to keep our commanders out of play by the looks of it. We'll go for Vamp Tutor into Rhystic Study. We'll try and play that out next turn. Would have been really nice to keep that Sylvan Library in play. And we miss a land drop here, but hopefully we'll draw into some lands off of Study. I imagine we certainly will off of Yarok, although they didn't play anything last turn, so I'm assuming that they don't have anything that costs 4 mana or less. They might top deck into something though. Gavany Township coming out for Shanna, followed by a Mother of Runes. Let's see if they allow us to draw. They do. It's not usually the wisest move to allow your opponents to draw with Rhystic Study, but I think in a situation like this where it's going to be Arch Enemy versus Azusa, I don't think it's the worst thing to allow us to draw here, but I suppose I'm biased. We clear a couple of cards off the top at least, but not getting into any lands, that's not good. Then, of course, going in at Azusa for 2 points of commander damage. Now, let's see if Yarok can do anything here, hoping to not see a concession. They get into their 4th land at least, but not casting anything. Yeah, would really like to draw some more off the Rhystic Study. Already paid for itself as far as I'm concerned, though. 3 mana to draw 2 cards is good. And then Life from the Loam. Going after an Ancient Tomb, a Wooded Foothills, and a Wasteland, and our opponent is going to negate on that. That's really good. They can get Life from the Loam back next turn though, and they do pay into Rhystic Study. And then Azusa pays into the Study as well, and getting down a Strip Mine, and that is going at the blue. Yeah, really targeting blue heavily because of things like negate, I imagine. And then putting a minus counter onto Mother of Runes. It's probably a good idea. Azusa's back down to 5 lands now. They'll be able to get those lands back with the Life from the Loam next turn though. Alright, managed to top deck into a land, that's good. Whenever a player casts a spell, plus counters, yes, okay. Let's just get down the Forgotten Ancient here. That will slowly get bigger as the game goes on. And then we can move plus counters onto our commander if we manage to get our commander down next turn. And then if we can buff our commander up enough and get a plus counter onto this, we might be able to infect Azusa out of the game. But that all relies on our stuff staying in play. A Dauntless Escort, and again triggering the Rhystic Study as well as our Forgotten Ancient this time. Hopefully get a lot of plus counters onto that over the course of the turn. And paying into the Study, so we do not get to draw there. And again, Sissay going in at Azusa. Nothing too interesting going on just yet because of all the land destruction, I imagine. And the Yarok player saying that this is their first commander game. I don't know if it's their first multiplayer game or their first commander game in general. But it's a shame that they're met with this really spiky land destruction, multiple strip mines going off all over the place. And paying into the Rhystic Study, going for Farseek, no doubt grabbing an island with that. Unfortunately, we're going to be seeing Strip Mine and Wasteland again next turn, I imagine. Just going for a basic, so our opponent will have to play Strip Mine to get rid of that. And it's same old, Life from the Loam going on to Strip Mine, Ancient Tomb, and Wasteland, same as last turn I think. We get into Damnation, would really like a land so that we can get our commander down next turn, although we might be a mana away from getting our commander down. Okay, they decide to play Ancient Tomb. Oh, so they can get down Azusa again. At least we're going to draw here. Alright, and we get into Tainted Isle. Hopefully our opponent doesn't get rid of the Bayou because that switches on our Tainted Isle. We need a swamp in play for that, although we have the lantern out anyway. I'm just assuming that our lantern is going to get blown up at some point. Strip Mine gets rid of the island, and yeah, who can blame them? First game of Commander Online, and this is what you're met with. It's a real shame. And the Drowned Catacomb is gotten rid of by a Wasteland, I imagine. In these types of games, you just have to wait it out, and if all three of us are stuck together, we could eventually get rid of Azusa, but I imagine this is how this Azusa player wins a lot of the time, is just by boring people to death. I'm going to say okay to that and not put the counters anywhere. Let's get the Tainted Isle down. And we might be able to take our opponent by surprise with a Tainted Strike, actually, as opposed to getting our commander into play. So let's hold up Beast Within, perhaps. We'll go for the Birds of Paradise. And if we can slowly tick up our Forgotten Ancient to 9 power, then +1 and Infect will take out the Azusa player. So yeah, we'll just leave this mana held up, and we will go for Beast Within when we get the chance. Want to do that probably in response to Life from the Loam. Very good that we're getting more counters here. Harmonise on Shanna and the Rhystic tax being paid. 3 cards going into Shanna's hand. Just making a land drop in Canopy Vista there, and then swinging in again at Azusa, as you would expect. Deciding not to block, so we are definitely going for Beast Within next turn. Just wait for our opponent to target the lands with Life from the Loam first, or they might not even go for Life from the Loam. Oh, it is in the hand, is it? So now we'll see what our opponent goes for with the study here. We want them to have the least amount of information possible before we go for this. And they've already targeted the lands with Life from the Loam. They just tapped down a mana as well. And it's Wasteland, Strip Mine, and Grasping Dunes. So in response, let's Beast Within on Azusa. And it's another plus counter. And now we're actually up to 8, so we should have enough to take Azusa out of the game here. They may chump with the Beast is the only problem, although what we could do is put the counters onto the birds, couldn't we, to give it evasion, so that we definitely get rid of... Yeah, because when we... Oh, and then deciding to scoop. How incredibly annoying is that? Well, this game doesn't count. Ugh, don't you just hate that? Alright. Well, we win this turn. That's ironic. We get into Wasteland. Yeah, there was a chance we could have had our opponent there if they were not going to block with the Beast, which I imagine they would have done. Let's just go in for the Tainted Strike onto the Forgotten Ancient and see if our opponent has any targeted removal for this. Yeah, there's a Swords to Plowshares. We will draw at least. And we get into Rolesque Apex Hybrid. Nothing we can do there, is there? Nope, so we will just have to allow that to be exiled and gain the life. Then we will play Wasteland. Yeah, we're at a big disadvantage now because our opponent has more mana than we do. Actually, 2, 4, 6. They've got 6 mana to our 5. One of ours is a delicate creature, though. Well, our opponent knows that we're going for Infect now anyway. So let's just get down the Blighted Agent here. And then we'll get down our commander next turn. And then maybe go for Rishkar to put a plus counter onto this so our commander can become a copy of it. But we are not looking good here. And Increasing Devotion will buff Shanna up by a hell of a lot. That's 5 creatures coming into play. Oh, and the 5 creatures are doubled by the parallel lives, of course, so Shanna jumping all the way up to a 12/12. We haven't been dealt any commander damage yet. But 2 hits like this, and we're done for. We're just going to take it. Unfortunately, might have to go for a Damnation. Alright, making lands at least. Yeah, I think we're just going to have to Damnation and go for our commander next turn. We're going to go down a mana, unfortunately. So we'll go for Damnation. We lose that Blighted Agent. But at least we've got another turn to survive, hopefully. And an Elspeth Sun's Champion with just enough mana for our opponent to pay for the tax. And Elspeth is a really big problem. We've got Rolesque at least, but we won't be able to get the plus counters going off with him, which is not ideal. Plus Elspeth can tick down in response to Rolesque. Alright, Master Biomancer. Yeah, we'll just get that down. As usual, haste is very much sought after. But this is the type of stuff we want to get going. Things like Master Biomancer and then a Rolesque and a Rishkar, putting plus counters onto that, so that this puts a lot of plus counters onto our commander. Then we go for Rogue's Passage in for commander damage. Yeah, that's the type of thing we want to be doing. Very difficult to do when you're getting all your lands blown up though. And then a Cathar's Crusade, that is really good. That is going to make these soldiers huge, and that is probably enough to take us out of the game. Hopefully it is anyway. So 6 soldier tokens coming into play means 6 plus counters onto all of the soldiers, and they all turn into 7/7s, and 7 times 6 is 42 for any of you that don't know. So we're just going to take this, not even going to bother playing this out anymore. And we'll say good game to our opponent, and if you're seeing this, which I imagine you are, then I hope you enjoyed it. But this isn't the real game, and I'm sure you'll be seeing the real one soon. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.